You too. You are not a sociopath.
Okay, so for me,
I can try to write this
the
out.
fundamental.
But
Okay, so for me, the fundamental aspect necessary to understand anything I'm saying, or where I'm coming
I'm
from,
trying to keep it short. If I write it out,
is my belief that science, scientific method, logic, reason,
what is
critical thinking,
what is it?
that all of these things,
You're not a sociopath. How basically
diagnostic
and
and statistical,
what is a sociopath?
did not evolve
Manual.
society.
Basically, sociopath, that you called. Basically, people who communicate to each other, express attention,
DSM-5.
to rail, to
How
what should share,
I cannot see evidence of, nor
and to
do
profit.
I accept the idea.
They're made up
Let's
terms.
break this down.
Now,
There is not evidence for.
that being
Or to
said,
suggest.
disorder. Okay. I've always
What is
instilled
DSM?
in you to. Let me just say this about the DSM.
How people get
The
together
idea
and
that
they
something
think
has
things
its influence on
You're
human
missing
development,
all time.
specifically
by extension. A
in
formula
children,
set.
not because children are innocent.
A formula for insanity. A formula
In
for
a child, not because they're taught to, and interact
the
with
way
other
we
children.
closest thing we can do is
Playing
gather all
in how they're
knowledge,
supposed to be.
sift out everything that does not
But because it's really troubling to that person.
home.
Okay, I can accept the idea.
Takes what
In
does
essence,
home
a formula
for what we are.
ruthlessly.
It is a religious
basically
text
the future of what's going to be.
because it
But
takes the
idea
assumption
that
that
it's
not with
bias.
society
It's
just about
and
impossible
humanity,
to do.
that
And empathy,
way,
I believe it
way
can be
that
done by
is
some. That reality are all
if they're exposed to any
absolutely
and everything,
unquestionably
bright stars,
real,
going to be
beautiful people,
Inherent.
anything from nature
no, you
in a
should
way
say
that's
this
not moral.
that needs doing to the
In other
human
words, if we're gonna
condition.
be honest with each other about what the
I'm
fuck is
sure
going
my
on
own
in our
influence
world,
could be damaging.
our world, as opposed to the fucking
Universe. The writers of the DSM
then I would suggest, and I think reasonably
are
rational,
going on
that if
the philosophy of developmental psychology, which is that
I think the people who write
humanity is supposed to be.
we get to a level playing field, we are supposed to be.
come to the idea that there are two
We're supposed to exist. We're supposed to
The
be
closer
so
we are to
we're supposed to
understanding
be
our
healthy.
condition.
personally individual.
Now,
I can get behind
here's the
that.
problem with
That
it.
still seems to be a derogatory term.
Says
Objective.
who?
But the second thing is what I have real
That's the
is
problem.
that
We'll never actually be able to do
Says
that.
fucking
everybody
who?
express their reaction. I see robotic to your
Shit, I'll
speech.
stand on the edge of the
Buttons
field and say,
makes
who
your behavior
is
or
going to
something.
tell me what the fuck is
Knock
going
that
on?
door because you know it's there.
Now, you can tell me what you're experiencing, but you ain't going to tell me what's going on.
If you
Not in
wanna
an
hold me
overall
down,
sense, and you fucking goddamn well
Put a
know.
knife to my neck or a gun
But-
to my fucking temple.
That makes me crazy
Tell
for
me
shouting
this is
down
the truth.
across
You
the
better be
field.
prepared.
You know?
Somebody does.
Oh, we're just trying to do our
Challenges.
pragmatic fucking purpose, business.
You do too.
The gun is against your temple.
We're just trying to fucking
lie.
goddamn
Can't
live, man, eat, man.
Someone investigates. Wholesale.
Bullshit.
Reason
They
is
hate
on
something
your
too.
side.
None of these are disorders.
Me.
There's a hell of a lot of people judging
You're eating
directions
me.
in chemistry, pretending that somehow
the
their
argument
masturbation
sound
is
coaching
in
mind.
It's just so sad. These haters, they could be quiet.
Speaks to you.
That's a bunch of bullshit.
Fuck, that's not wrong.
That's why I say they're just different. I just don't like the robots. Why
Just
all
don't
those
like
terminologies are made up stuff.
For some other reason, not calculated.
Robots better talking at you. Because they're all using the same knowledgeable.
And that's my God.
Terms
And
that
that's
doesn't mean
our
they
God,
actually
too.
are saying the same
So,
like
thing.
it.
Let's get back to
God
the
is errant. Our God doesn't give a shit. Indifferent.
Lack having superficial
God.
understanding. Superficial
There's
understanding.
other plans than us.
And it just seems like a circle jerk.
This is what I feel. Now,
Manual.
considering that and anything else I may say or express
philosophical,
too.
superficial,
For it.
religious
Now, you don't get me started.
anything I may.
Let's just stick with
to
it.
accept anything that was being talked about. Because the idea is that we're supposed to be social creatures, we're supposed to exist.
Even if it makes no sense.
That stuff's honest, it's pure. We're supposed to be empathetic. When it gets into your thinking about each other, you start thinking about help each other, and
Tell me,
specifically say
coming into conflict with
not
your
hurt each
philosophy.
other. What's called
Off on
over each
over
other.
Except
And
all
those
is
who,
your
who
philosophy.
don't, those who have
existence,
no
specific
little empathy or no empathy, apparently.
Tell me how mine's
Oh,
just.
she's
Tell me
saying
what you
That's when prejudice becomes what we call.
that's what I really want.
That's when you start thinking it's bullshit.
That's not
Prejudice
good.
itself,
There's
there's
no
no
evidence
evidence
whatsoever.
whatsoever. In fact, I think
Especially if you're
it's
deciding.
just natural selection. Just
Come
come
from
from
they
days.
can't help but getting
Simply
your
a
face.
process. Everybody around which thing
Straight
adapt.
flow through.
Somebody does
It's a
survive for a
period.
while and die out eventually. And it's probably going to be a hell of a lot healthier for you and for them. That we're not supposed to be social, but not. Now you could argue
just
well,
too
evolved
bad.
that way, and so therefore
My
anything that
selfish
comes
desires
into conflict with that is dangerous, and therefore it's wrong.
prejudice,
Not
not
saying
not what's wrong.
No, it's not.
It's not wrong.
Because we're not supposed to be.
Let's just hold them up.
That's the whole point. If we were, we wouldn't have such a hard time being social. And calling someone a hater would not have such a hard time being aware of these pisses me off.
The reason,
In other words, that the foundations of our society are built upon things that are not factual, but are actually, arguably religious, which is the hate.
So, what is order? Order is
Right.
rights.
What allows things. Human, that's really all Americans can't really use the terms like
Knowing where we're gonna get water each day. So,
It had to happen.
above all else.
Everything has to happen, just as it does.
scumbag.
That crazy son of a bitch back at the hotel was always talking shit about how the signifying monkey was just a slave to fate, and that nothing has ever come to be.
It's like some kind of fucking
That crazy son of a bitch back at the hotel was always talking shit about how the signifying monkey was just a slave to fate, and that nothing has ever come to be that was anything but the grinding out of the inevitable.
1,000
We are
years ago.
self-absorbed.
Everything has to happen, just as it does.
There's nothing wrong with that. But that is the
It had to happen.
sociopath.
Everything has to happen, just as it does.
Even intelligent.
That crazy son of a bitch back at the hotel was always talking shit about how the signifying monkey was just a slave to fate, and that nothing that has ever come to be was anything but the grinding out of the inevitable.
Supposed to exist.
Most just ignored him, stir crazy.
Supposed
But
to
the more he rambled on, the more it felt true somehow, and god damn him for that. There are some things that some men just cannot afford to contemplate. Not in the cage, not in the grip of the man. Carmen feels a tiny spot of coal hit the back of his neck and well up over him, and then push,
Especially not, someone
and
like
then
me.
push,
antisocial
and then push, and then push past him toward the others. Carmen feels a tiny spot of cool at the back of his neck and well up over him, and then push past him toward the others. He sees each one stop just for a moment as the wings caress them. Then he pushes the spike into the next piece of debris, and the cruel sun is pulling sweat from his pores again. He can hear the steps of the man behind him, strong in that sense of righteous priority, a confidence instilled through ages. We belong here in these steps. We belong in these here steps. This spike should be in my hand, just as that shotgun belongs in yours. This is our walk in the perfect rhythm of justice, the sacred movement of forced penitence. But the sound changes. Behind him there is a faltering of the step, and then the sound of dead weight as the body comes crashing into the dirt, the metal of the barrel scratching the asphalt. Carmen is filled with an electricity that would be euphoric if not for the circumstances. He dares to turn, and then he sees the man's body, and the red stuff welling out from it, even more. He dares to turn, and then sees the man's body and the red stuff welling out from it, even before he sees the two figures run up beside the truck. One fires into the open window, and the other kicks the body in the dirt. He hears others speaking up, and then screaming. Turning back, Carmen sees men dropping down the hill from the highway, leaving the body of the man in the front of the line to bleed out in the dirt. The place they would be slowly transversing if things had not changed so drastically, so quickly. Birds are rising at every corner. The place that they would inevitably have been slowly transversing if things had not changed so drastically, so quickly. Birds are rising at every corner, and he feels himself tucking down, falling away from the road, pebbles cutting into his back through his prison garb. He sees the branches of trees clawing up to cover the sky. And damned if he doesn't feel that cool spot on his face spread out as he slides down toward the forest floor. There are sounds like cars crashing and more shots from above, but as soon as he reaches the trees, he curls up and begins to pray. Jesus, let me wake up now. Please just let me wake up back into the grind. There are shouts, and at least 2 men are running deeper into the woods. Carmen just wants to go back to the cool angel wings on his back to the righteous march and the clear, cruel sky above. He didn't ask for this. He wants no part of it. He is not a revolutionary man. He just wants to serve his time and abide the rest. He is not a revolutionary man. He just wants to serve his time and abide the rest. But it seems that Jesus had other plans this day. This day the man is not in charge. A peal of thunder calls out from above. Carmen marvels at this just for a moment, and then finds his legs and forces himself deeper into the cool of the woods, wondering just what the hell is coming down next. A peal of thunder calls out from above. Carmen marvels at this for just a moment, and then he finds his legs and forces himself deeper into the cool of the woods, wondering just what in the hell is coming. Carmen marvels at this for just a moment and then finds his legs and forces himself deeper into the cool of the woods, wondering just what in the hell was coming down next.
So I think if we were looking at things in terms of difference, which seems to be more still sound and logically can be scientifically,
It was comfort that led to the apathy, and it was the apathy and the fear that led to the...
at this point, the disorder, the species, I don't know. For me, I go a long way in trying to understand things at the very least. The swirling process hasn't gone completely down yet, but it's
I put the little green pill into my mouth and chew it into my system. I need to find a way to distract myself for 20 minutes, just long enough for the effects of the drug to kick in. I need to let the medicine kill the body thing.
So why do
It's been corrupting my dreams. I need to let the medicine kill the body think that has been. I need to let the medicine kill the body think that has been corrupting my dreams. This thought makes me laugh in spite of my anxiety. The cat is purring loudly next to my head. There's something alien inside of me. It's been watching me since childhood, waiting for the chemistry to be compatible. Why can't an alien be a demon? Why should the myths be mutually exclusive? This is my body laying on the bed, but it's not really mine. Maybe it never was. When I breathe out, I see fractals forming in the textures of the ceiling. They form inward and pull my thoughts with them. I'm a coastline paradox. There's a tide lapping at the edges of reason and being. I cannot measure myself because I only have one tool to do so, and the shore is surely larger than my awareness knows. Infinite echoes engulf caves. Inside the shell of my head is such a cave, and I am cradled with my mother there. She is long and cool like a statue, and she holds me still from the spray of the jagged rocks. She is long and cool like a statue, and she holds me still. She is long and cool like a statue, and she holds me still and separate from the spray of the jagged rocks. She is long and cool like a statue, and she holds me still and safe from the spray of the jagged rocks. She is long and cool like a statue, and she holds me still and separate from the spray off the jagged rocks. But her stone skin is comforting because this is a memory, infinite and identical in its proportions to my understanding of it. In the store with my parents, I see the statue and I am a child. None of this makes any sense, but I begin to feel the calm touching outer edges of the swelling darkness within, ebbing the tide. The elements that bind all things are in perfect control. I am part of a mathematical miracle. It is only frightening when it confuses the senses. It is only frightening when it confuses the senses. The monsters,
at least those who watch the way they often appear to destroy, because introducing superficial lie to I feel this way, so therefore it's righteous. I'm saying fuck that. I'm saying fuck the DSM. And everybody
the monster is real. I am not insane. Lucidity meditates my chakra. The monster is real. I am not insane. Lucidity mediates my chakra. I laugh again. It echoes in spiral waves of amber and honey, dipping into a web of blood, stars, tiny spiders pulling in the blood and weaving jewels in an eternal night. My chains are spirals, but I see through them. I speak through them. The monster is Coyote, my infinite squirrel mind, running in endless crazy circles, seeking for the central nut, the core seed from where the desire to chase will grow. I am waiting for my own myth. I am waiting for my own birth to catch up to me. What did they call it? A birth tone. The monster alien demon cocksucker in the essence of the monster alien demon cocksucker is the essence of me before I knew I existed, coming back into formation after and before, so that the bridge can be ignited. Burn away the doubt, burn away fear. I am lying here and I am sitting in the street burning. I am lying here and holding something taut and wet in my hand. A human head. I am gibbering and they rush me down onto the sidewalk. I struggle for a moment and then I struggle for a moment and then I let go. I struggle for a moment and then let go. Looking over to the side, the side of my face is scraping the asphalt, and I see the dead eyes looking back at me. There are cycles flittering out about me. There are bat wings cutting invisible patterns in the air. There are bat wings cutting invisible patterns into the air. The patterns scuttle outward forever. The patterns flip and tumble into the convection of heat above the flames of my burning form. The patterns flip and tumble into the convection of heat above the flames of my burning form. The corona is an Ouroboros of light, light eating itself alive. I cannot see them as I am ash and bone now, but I can hear the children around me, not too close. The heat is intense, but the voices are patterns and they carry me into an eternal return, into oblivion, again.
If you believe that something... If you believe that everything is a joke, then shouldn't anything that you say or do be taken in jest?
It's bullshit. There is no actual scientific basis for it. It's only a philosophical and even
I'm getting ready to go.
Yes, this is my
kill the whole family. A whole lot. I'm gonna kill them all.
Challenge it. Dispatch. Reason. Science. Scientific methodology. Go for it.
We're not doing anything.
But little experience I've had, and communications I've had, and education I've had in these areas, in no way, shape, or form suggest that it is even remotely possible to challenge what I'm saying, my assertion, which is that these are made-up terms that people use to cope, and that they do not represent something that isn't necessarily an actual disorder, but something that is actually a difference in biochemistry.
Shield to hold up.
One that may not be advantageous if all of us felt this way, but we all don't feel this way anyway. One that is basically, more than anything else, harmful to the rare people who have to deal with it.
It can't be, because being human has to be what I am, which is good, which is right. That's what I read. But instead of indifference,
know you're not alone
of chemistry,
but know that,
which is rare because
some of us
honestly, if it wasn't
this
that
stuff,
specific,
not just accept
these
these
just don't exist.
capable. You don't have to learn.
Yeah, probably not. But you're not supposed to adapt. Therefore, is it good to adapt? Is it righteous? Should we have children too?
I'm going to do this a couple times, but here's the first one.
See, the benefit is that I don't have children for the reasons. No. If I attempt
Antisocial personality disorder.
It's a religion. If I were to do so, would it be right or wrong?
Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, Mental Disorders, 5th edition.
Sympathy making in the way what we call it. But if I believed you
now,
shaping the world to suit our morality,
what people call sociopathic or psychopathic personality, usually interchangeably,
that interpretation. Can you prove it?
Is
We can brush with conflict and prove it has no
Refer to
sacrifice
it,
our lives. But what we cannot do for sure is that all of this is
AP.
potentially ruins.
Essentially, it is about why would this be recorded? Being social in the sense that you find it hard to integrate yourself in society so much as it is that you are introverted. So much as you actually are opposed to
You obey culture,
social beliefs, social mores, things of that nature.
in essence.
Other species in general.
Okay, momentarily in the lack of functional in terms of what may be exposed.
So we have one problem with the DSM in
Caller?
general is not the idea that if something is
Well,
felt
for the
as
DSM is
an
just this.
impediment,
Society for now.
that if something is felt as
And that
a
means
problem for an individual,
it's a lot stylized and
it
contrived.
can be classified as a disorder.
including this.
I'm coming from this frame.
How much of
I have
that
a problem with that too.
already
But the main problem I
humans
have
are
with
social
the DSM is that every version of it is that it seems to concentrate on
which cares
a
more
secondary aspect, which, as far as I'm concerned, doesn't
Inescapable.
make any logical sense. What is that?
Sociopath.
But aspects of your behavior,
being
affect
social,
other ways that
in
they
fact,
perceive
being healthy,
harm.
in order, it's always just be.
But I don't see how that classifies the behavior as a disorder.
People start with
in you. In other words, how can you be classified as
You could
frame
call it
a
fucked up dudes that don't give a shit about anybody
Let's
else.
not mince words here. It is, like all words, made up.
The human
It
species
doesn't actually refer to an actual
It's
thing.
evolution.
It is
The
something
idea
made
of
up
evolution, guarantee, somebody felt like it will it in natural selection. Those
to refer to
would, if they represent the whole
it's something made up.
the implication, and it was ripping off the toddler's panties and doing everything.
If we cannot show
Everything
evidence of intention
to paint the world
behind
red.
our evolution, therefore we cannot show lack of empathy.
To cutting up your wife, your son, yourself, and scattering you
Reasons to
around.
be healthy.
Bonfire after bonfire,
It's not
where people fuck it up,
just aggression,
theoretical,
irritability,
celebrating.
frequent
cannot
assault,
just the joy of being able to be social,
safety,
to be aware. That's freedom. To progress in our own minds, or because it has to be in terms of this, that, or the other.
progress is not happening.
To let go,
Only in a laboratory.
We're talking about
First thing to establish
philosophical freedom, absolute perfect form of
idea
freedom.
that there is any
It's frightening
because
being
if we assume
perfect
selection
changing
dangerous
with no intention,
in other words, did humans
or
evolve?
if we assume that the lack of evidence
Did they evolve to be
for
social
intention,
creatures? Did they
but
evolve to be healthy?
forces us to
Doing
stand
they
at this
evolved to
point
be social
until we are illuminated.
Therefore,
There is one organ
being antisocial is
that contradicts his
sort
entire
of, we have to
philosophy.
acknowledge that
I believe this is
natural
a
selection
misstep in his
isn't about
equation,
survival.
but just prancing around
about
on a stage of
adaptation.
ignorance. Personal understanding of this equation.
Genetic aspects allow something
Whenever it happens.
adapt well enough to get a
The brain
foothold.
sounds
so that
fucking crazy, doesn't it? That will. Absolutely.
You say, you know what those shadows on that wall there mean?
I think most of us could agree with
Well,
the idea that existence is an organ
not for very long.
you thought about.
They mean
Often will seem crazy. Body.
they mean what,
That's
Professor?
the
My
contrast.
idea is
What do
that
they
through a
mean,
process
Professor?
of
And the connectivity. It's not the contrast between our thoughts about things, harmed
I
out,
don't
fractures in
So, woo, yay.
the implications
It's
you
not,
said.
it's not
That's
to say
the correct
that being
answer as far as
adaptive is
I'm
great. The most adaptive species is
But it goes as
I
can
we don't
draw
rule
nature.
it. We
As
don't
observers,
rule anything.
someone who's experienced,
Being adaptive
studied
is just why we're here talking about this stuff.
experienced and studied human psychology
Part by are we supposed to
I
be
do
here talking
believe
about
yes,
stuff?
because
The point is,
result
if there can be
behavior
no
is different to my condition.
evidence, and I mean no evidence,
Therefore, I must walk with that
depending on the
knowledge
knowledge,
or that
that
belief.
shows that humans are supposed to be social
It's very
creatures,
philosophical. What's going to happen when you walk
and
with?
that we're supposed
like
to
the
feel
idea,
something
Lord,
and have a certain
that
level
Lord,
of empathy.
We should
Have
have
a
many
certain
Lords,
level of empathy.
and that things that
behave
do
walk
not
with
contribute
God.
to being
You
social are
believe in certain
defects.
things.
Deficiency.
You walk with
You
something
have to think about it.
beyond
Inversion.
The suggestion
The
that
pale of sexual
Someone
human
who has
understanding.
less empathy,
The words still have
or
connotations
more
to
animosity
everybody.
towards social
Everyone who
rules.
hears
You
the
walk
word
with
come back
yourself,
still perceives
hand in
The idea
hand
connotations.
that
with
is
yourself from birth.
these are
It's one thing to
aspects
say
of
it's
the
They
Yeah.
perceive it as
knowing
positive,
everything,
negative,
right?
so
Some
their
person
personality,
everything.
their personal tastes, their
Well,
biases, their prejudices.
something that disturbs
That
you
is
about
ultimately
And
what
it
decides
is
this
used
mind
as a
disorder.
derogatory term.
Nothing. That is bullshit.
Other than you want to dip into the unconscious.
I'm thinking
And this is
words
as good as
you
it
hold
gets
up
right now.
that you condense me in and feel that ideas.
But
Just no much way to
No,
know.
because the thing studying is the thing itself.
to actually
Concern me.
So,
try to investigate
my
my
actions, my
condition,
behavior, my psyche,
not just assume
my
that
philosophies.
and who laid it there? If we're not
Why?
types of
word,
behavior
or at least if
that
there is
foster
no
They
evidence to
think
show
for a
that
moment
we're
we're
supposed to be
social
social,
interaction,
capable,
and
aware,
pleasure
about your
health
health
has
with
such
little
shit.
pain or conflict
Possible
are the
clutching
best
someone.
things, and that's the way it should be
Non-violent
measured,
time
everything
of
like
their
this.
measurement,
non-destructive,
It tends to
except
lead
in
to
the
extreme
of
alienation
immediate
of people who
measurement of
demonize
experience
it.
in taking of food, such.
of
Not
people
memory.
who are simply different, really, and actually only different.
just
What does it
accepting
say
what's
that
happening.
Lacking in empathy is
Without
not a
political
disorder at all.
without being moral about it.
In essence, what
That
am
we
I
should
should
Couldn't
be
be
social.
considered a disorder
Not because
unless
that's the way to be. What is there to say?
this was
that
something
this
that
fuck's
evolved
going on?
after a certain
I don't know.
point in time, and it
What
had
is
already
this
been established.
word?
Every
Yeah,
single
word.
human being has
The
this
word.
specific level of
Word is. Since it
Similar.
represents
suggests
was
that
it
someone
attempting
who
to
has too much
represent
truly
who
reality
we are,
just
those
has
who
where
thrust such things forward is a
abstract
banner
and
saying,
made up terms to
you shall
closest
not
you
pass
ever to
this
know whether
area.
there is a so-called disorder in which someone is too empathetic,
I do wonder
or it may be too sensitive, or
My friend's
if one
associate.
feels the fucking
I
inside
don't cry
their
when I
heart,
hear
in their
about people
soul
dying.
of souls.
in the news,
my lover,
under any
self,
circumstance,
my
no matter how
child,
many people, no matter what
and
happens.
true. Psychologists are
He's
false
a
gods.
what?
A word
Living.
somebody made up. All
do
and
see
man,
it.
fuck
And
the
I
DSM.
doctor,
Seriously.
I do feel empathy, which is not
That's
good
what
as
hearts
anything.
are.
Another discussion.
Everything. So are the bringing up the DSM because you want to look at the so are the entertainers.
What does happen is that you feel pain in relationship to
So are those who dance.
Those who
the
sing.
perception of someone else suffering.
Right.
What's your word, man?
Unless you're a
Throw
masochist,
on
you're
the
going to want to
street.
stop their pain.
To mean somebody who
Stop your
doesn't
pain.
seem to
Which
feel
could be a
your
selfish
pain,
thing,
but
could
it's
lead
just
to
empathy.
negativity,
Lack of
escapism.
empathy. What is empathy?
However much we
Repercussions
may
for
Not
that
know,
really
person
feeling
must
someone else's pain.
acknowledge
That's
it
impossible.
as a lie.
In other
We
words,
feel pain
empathy
in a
is
relationship.
Fully,
acting
emotionally,
Common
for sympathy
understanding
is-
when
is,
it's
a lie.
for lack of a better
Even if you
term,
haven't had that person.
I would say self-oriented, but
If
it really,
and only
there's
if,
so much
Even if you
righteousness
haven't
that
had
comes
that
with
experience
if
personally.
we were aware,
So,
you would
pull
think.
around
Even
us.
if you haven't had that
that
experience
really,
personally,
people
we
think
can
that
cope back.
there's no way you can harm somebody by
to feel something.
stopping that pain
Look,
in
you
you.
see suffering,
Feel something.
I empathize with
That's
you.
good.
I want to stop your pain.
keep that going
I
on.
want to make you feel better.
In other words, keep that
Get you
person
healthy.
suffering so that you keep
It
suffering.
might not be the best sort of thing
Change
that person might need, like with an acid trip
not
occasionally.
suffering
But occasionally.
Let's talk about the rest of us.
Much better off in their own
To
definition
ignore,
of aggression,
to
which
suppress,
is
to distort,
stop
to
it.
pervert.
if they work
The
through it themselves.
information that would otherwise come to you crystalline, as
But
it
that's not
does,
the only
even if
reason
it
I would
continues in
hurt
you,
myself. It's simply
or
because
stopping seems to.
Here!
Stop
We are just feeling this shit out, man.
pain in the first place.
That's reality, man. That's all I'm talking about, brother and sister.
Stopping that pain in someone
That's all I'm
else.
talking
Sort
about,
of
children.
pain.
God, you can't receive
That
it.
very more suffering around you. Even
All I'm
to
talking
the
about
worst
is
thing
that
that
form.
causes suffering.
The metaphysics.
Realize
what
that
they
if you're
want.
causing suffering and
But
realizing
it's a
it
no
regardless
off
of what
on
you
it.
want.
It's not an
what
assertion
people
play.
say to
Could you
It's not what
argue?
they want. Not
Said,
perceiving
could
to know
you
everything.
I'm throwing these terms out there.
Not destroy it. Human condition. I simply
Everything watching
But
before they
it
would have
refers
got
to
it.
something
They're
real
suffering
thing.
a long
Just
experience.
as antisocial personality disorder refers to a real thing.
If
So,
you believe that
sort of.
everything is a
Everything
joke,
is
Then
then shouldn't anything that you say or do
terms of
be
empathy,
taken
it
in
means
jest?
you are selfish.
Good enough.
Self-
If you believe that everything is a joke, then shouldn't anything that you say or do be taken in jest?
You're forced to be clean to.
If you believe that everything is a joke, then shouldn't anything that you say or do be taken in jest?
Empathy is
If
not
you believe that everything is a joke,
running into a
then shouldn't anything you say or do
Rejecting
be taken
anything
in
that comes
jest?
close to
live. They gotta get out.
If you believe that anything and everything is a joke, then shouldn't everything that you do be taken in jest?
Because there's no sitting down and thinking about that.
If you believe that everything is a joke, then shouldn't anything that you say be... If you believe that everything is a joke, then shouldn't anything that you say or do be taken in jest?
If you're not,
If you believe that everything is a joke, then shouldn't anything that you say or do be taken in jest?
if you apply,
If you believe that everything is a joke, then shouldn't anything you say or do be taken in jest? If you believe that everything is a joke, then shouldn't anything you that... If you believe that everything is a joke, then shouldn't everything... If you believe that anything is a joke, then shouldn't anything that you believe... If you believe that everything is a joke, then shouldn't anything that you say or do be taken in jest? If you believe that everything is a joke, then shouldn't anything that you say or do be taken in jest? If you believe that everything is a joke, then shouldn't anything that you say or do be taken in jest?
If you believe that everything is a joke, then shouldn't anything that you say or do be taken in jest? Can I get an amen?
so it's a different kind of empathy, an aversion.
Amen!
You made that term up. I didn't.
If you don't enjoy the pain of others, here's the term. That's what you are. And then define you by this made-up word, and that's what you are. And therefore, they can classify it, they can study it, look it up, that's what other people said about it, and they, as far as they do all of that, and all the complexity that is you, they can reduce it to that.
It was comfort that led to apathy. It was comfort that led to the apathy. And it was the apathy and fear that led those in places of power. It was comfort that led to the apathy. And it was the apathy and fear that let those in places of power feed the sheep just enough of an idea of freedom so that when they took eat. And it was apathy. It was comfort that led to the apathy. And it was the apathy and fear that let those in places of power feed the sheep just enough of an idea of freedom so that when they took each little step further, the sheep were complacent. God damn it! It was comfort that led to the apathy. And it was apathy and fear that let those in places of power feed the sheep just enough of an idea of freedom so that when they took each little step further, the sheep were too complacent to realize where these movements were taking them. The tribe had never been uncorrupted. The ideals put forth were always compromised, always perverted, or inverted to suit the one. The ideals put forth were always compromised, always perverted, or inverted to suit the ones who were destined to be in power. Conditioned to accept being a sheep and feeling righteous when crying out. Conditioned to be a sheep and feeling righteous when crying out, so that when the imaginary rights were finally subjugated, there were no actual rights to turn to for support. It was inevitable, but then so was the revolution. When words cease to appease, and when luxury is fraught with exploitation and hypocrisy, there will be no mercy in the retort, only flames and gunfire and wanton liberation. But freedom was not. But freedom was not what we fought for in these bright days of the new millennium. These days we fought for righteous hate. We accepted our slavery to nature. We are just part of that process, and our wills must ultimately bend to its own. We are just a part of that process, and our wills must ultimately bend to its own, however seemingly indifferent to wants and needs of such creatures as we have become. But we have no allegiance to the ideas and imaginary ideals of others. We know that crime is just a word. We are aware that justice is a concept that changes drastically from mind to mind. We know that there is no logic to our existence. The meanings we make, radically diverse and inherently opposed, are not sacrosanct, and neither is this thing we call society. There is no true unity but in our idiot need to commune and to gather under the complete. There is no true unity but in our idiot need to commune and to gather under the compromise of creature comforts. We know that being godless and without purpose affords us a position of all positions at once. We are conflicted by nature and without any ultimate goal. So we will rise up and fight any system that is designed or that has evolved on the principality of freedom. Because freedom is a lie told to the sheep. Because freedom is a lie told to sheep by other sheep in order to make them docile and weak and welcoming of the slaughter. We will rise because freedom is the lie told to sheep by other sheep in order to make them docile and weak and welcoming of the slaughter. We will rise up and gut you in the streets. We will rise up and gut you in the streets you had us build for your convenience above our own. And we will kill your wolves and take cover in your houses. And we will kill your wolves and take over your houses and crucify your sons and daughters. And no matter that you will claw your way back into the seat of power, we know that this is a place which will inevitably be burned again and again and again. So we live only for our time of burning. We chant nothing but the one word of our time. Burn. Pushing its feathered form through seeping red folds.
And we will give over to the flood and find what comforting illusions we are allowed while basking in the tidal wave of your royal blood. We are the storm, and we are coming for you all. Pray if you believe. Hope if you still can. We are here to reap. Finally, we have been awakened, and our chains have been spread out far enough to let us into your yards. Our freedom is simply the appreciation of a cool rain on our faces as we tear your world apart. Our freedom is any pleasure we can experience while causing you pain. There will be no reasoning with us. This is a reckoning.
That the child's stomach does not burst during this process, but the flesh holds, and the dark body finally pulls itself fully out and begins to shake off its embryonic shell. As clouds reform above the willow, the creature manages to stand upright, fanning out a set of massive wings. Jeweled beads of ruby race to the edge of feathered arms, dance sunlit for a moment before gravity plucks them to the grassy earth.
I am here at the location.
Then the storm covers.
Then
the storm covers all the day's light in a deep blue bow. Then the storm covers all the day's light in a deep blue bowl, and thunder sounds heavy above the husk of the tattered child.
I'm standing at the edge of a forest.
The creature opens its eyes and shakes.
Precipice of
The creature opens its eyes and takes its first vision. The creature opens its eyes and takes in its first vision of the strange new world, a small community below and its oblivious denizens. The first dark thought becomes legend in the creature's mind,
as well as
shakes its
corpses
wings
that
in
are
frenzied
strewn at odd
awareness of the
angles about the
understanding.
skeletal framework.
This
I
is
cannot
now
smell
my
the
home.
rot that must be in this air.
The man in the black trench coat
And when I
tipped
turn
his
to see the
feathered cap
vines
at the sheep
and various
hiding in
greenery
their
close in
fragile
on me
utopia below
as
him.
vines
His thoughts were
living,
set upon the needs of
alive,
the storm
and
above
rapid
him,
in their
and his eyes
carnivorous
were growing
approach to
red
my lone living
and clearer.
flesh. You're not a sociopath.
This is the altar of my arrival.
So I
he
thought,
mused.
there is a
I must
cat
turn up its
on the
pillars.
railing.
and I want to pet it, but I'm afraid of
and
disease.
like the clouds
Its
above
eyes
his,
are curved orbs
and like the clouds
of liquid
above his
reflective
dark form, he
confession.
would rain down
I am here to
upon these harvest
explore
grounds.
and
This was his
confess
reason for existing.
sins
This was
that
why
are
he had been
figments
called.
of
Without
fools,
looking
yet
forward
cut
at the
into
torn
my
vessel
psyche
of his
nonetheless.
birth, the dark
I walk
man
forward
began
into
to
this
walk towards
place,
the sleeping town.
into this pale dead kingdom, and prepare myself for the waking.